If you've been watching Allcarnews for a while now, you'll know that I am a huge fan of Mazda. I love their designs, their unique approach to technology and the driving experience, as well as all the new vehicles on their large architecture, such as this 2025 CX-70 Premium Plus plug-in hybrid. We've driven all of the CX-90s at this point, and essentially this all-new CX-70, an all-new, I mean in quotes, it's a CX-90 without the third row, some redesigned trim inside out and bumpers, and still I think it's a really fantastic vehicle. It drives incredibly, it gets really good efficiency numbers, and it looks awesome as well, both inside and out. You're really getting that German luxury driving and handling experience at a lower entry price point, and made by a unique Japanese manufacturer here. But we're going to answer the question here, is the CX-70 really necessary in Mazda's lineup, or should they just have made a two-row version of the CX-90 and just called it a different trim or something, instead of trying to market it as a whole new model, is what we're doing and looking at right now. Nonetheless though, I still am a huge fan of the CX-70 and all of its aspects, so we're going to kind of take a deep dive tour into all of this once again on this platform, so stay tuned for that. And let's go dive in, because even at around $60,000, and yes, this is the plug-in hybrid version, this is still a really fantastic vehicle. And of course, you can get the inline six as well, which is a super smooth and underrated powertrain, I think, in this segment. And under the hood here, we have a really, really great powertrain. Even though I think it could use a little bit more refining in a later stage, I think it's still pretty unique. So we have a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine here, making around 189 horsepower. This is then paired to an electric motor of Mazda's own design, sandwiched in between this Mazda engine and Mazda's own designed 8-speed multi-clutch gearbox. And that all together is making around 323 horsepower and pretty impressive torque figures as well. This thing is not slow for weighing over 5,100 pounds. You can do 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 5.5 to 5.8 seconds, which is pretty quick for such a large vehicle at 200 inches long as well. And of course, you can still got the inline six in both turbo and turbo S variants as well, with similar power output numbers, but a much more louder and raucous sound, which I really like from that engine here. Now this is again a naturally aspirated, so you're kind of missing out on that turbocharged nature there. Maybe down the road Mazda might turbocharge this engine, we may see even more power, but overall I think it's still pretty cool of a powertrain system. And since this is Mazda's large rear-wheel drive based architecture, it's longitudinally mounted, and it is mounted so far back in this engine bay. There is literally over 3 feet of space between where the front of the engine is and the front of the vehicle. And it's so far back actually that I could honestly call this a front mid-engined SUV, because I can literally stare and grab with my hands the front steering rack going to the front wheels, which is, I think, aids in part to why this vehicle handles just so well on the roads for something in this class and size. It's almost like if Alfa Romeo built a large SUV. It's that good. If you haven't driven one, definitely go experience it out on the roads. And since this is the plug-in hybrid version of the CX-70/CX-90, we have an absolutely massive charge port door on our passenger side here. Just check out how big this is compared to my hand. It's like the whole side of the vehicle. But popping this open here is going to reveal our level 2 J1772 port here. Hook that on the side. And when charging this on the said level 2 port, you can pretty much go from around 0% on this battery pack up to 100 in just over 2 hours, which is pretty impressive. I did that last night and it proved to be exactly true. Personally though, if you're going to be charging this at home on a day-to-day basis, kind of skip that whole level 2 process, and I would honestly just plug it into a regular house outlet, let it charge over that 10 to 11 hour period overnight. Maybe when you go to sleep and wake up in the morning, you have a full charge of around 26 to 29 miles, depending on how you're driving the vehicle. EPA is saying around 26 miles. I'm seeing around 30 miles on how I've been driving over this course of the week, so it really depends on how you drive. Now, combined total range, Mazda is saying over 400 miles with this gas plus this electric powertrain system here. This again depends on your driving style, and that range figure will update in the infotainment system, so some people will see different numbers and figures around there. And this is a pretty small battery pack. It's around 70.8 kilowatt hours. I just fully charged it yesterday as of this filming, and I got around 15.6 kilowatt hours fully charged. So I'm not sure if that whole thing is fully usable. So I'd like to see this increased over time, possibly offering over 30 miles of true EPA rated range. That'd be a really nice thing to see. But nonetheless, a still nice, efficient powertrain system. And I always like to remind people, you can get this vehicle with that turbocharged mild hybrid inline six if you don't want to go this plug-in hybrid setup. So yes, the CX-70 essentially is just a slightly redesigned version of the CX-90 with no third row. And if you're looking to find one on the road specifically, you're gonna have to look for a few key things. So on the front over here, Mazda has introduced this truly gorgeous gunmetal gloss finish trim for the entire exterior of the CX-70 lineup, which I believe you can now get on the CX-90, but I think it's a really cool look. Also unique to the CX-70s are this more rugged style bumper design here. So as you can see here, we have these side little vent accents over here on the front bumper of the CX-70, as well as this lower kind of trim piece over here that looks like almost like a scuff plate. You're not going to find that on the CX-90. It's a much smoother, more luxurious design than you're going to find on this CX-70. Now, one thing that's really interesting that Mazda is still doing versus the plug-in hybrids and the inline six, on the top grades of the plug-in hybrid, you don't get the full LED system. Yes, all the lights are LED, but there's an additional LED daytime running light that I've seen on the inline six Premium Pluses that I have not seen on the the plug-in hybrid CX-70 or 90. Same thing goes with the taillights. They don't fully light up on the fully spec'd versions of the plug-in hybrid, but they do on the inline six. Not too sure why that's the case. I wish they would kind of fix that. It seems like a little bit of some cheaping out, especially since this vehicle ends up costing a little bit more than the inline six version itself already, which is kind of complicated, a little bit like this vehicle's history. Nonetheless, though, I still think it looks gorgeous, especially here in this polymetal gray metallic paint color. And with the CX-70, there's a whole bunch of new exclusive colors that you can't even get on the CX-90, such as this melting copper color, which is just gorgeous, and a whole bunch of other really nice paints, such as zircon sand metallic, and some other really cool ones that Mazda is offering here. Nonetheless, though, I think I really like the design of this vehicle still, but let me know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. Now, another weird thing with the CX-70 is just that packaging on this car is also unusual in Mazda's lineup. This car is really an anomaly in the entire segment already, but even within Mazda's lineup, it's a little bit strange. So for example, the CX-90, you can get an entry-level version of the plug-in hybrid, but you can't in the 70. It's kind of already comes upgraded. So that means you're getting these really gorgeous 21-inch wheels pretty much as standard. And I think they look absolutely awesome. They almost look like a BMW X3 wheel in a sense, and that's a very high compliment, I think, for this vehicle. I also like this nice gunmetal trim here we have on this Premium Plus trim, which you will not get on the entry-level versions of plug-in hybrids, as well as our plug-in hybrid badge here. This will say inline six if you got the inline six one. And this is also meant to accentuate the width here, because this is a rear-wheel drive longitudinal architecture, and that engine is literally all the way back here behind the front wheels. It's really cool. Again, I like this wheel and tire combo as well. This, I think, helps it to ride even better than the CX-90. So I've experienced this actually feeling a lot more more developed and composed on the road than my previous experience in the past 3 or 4 CX-90s I've actually driven. So hopefully they've put these changes over to the CX-90 as well, because I think both vehicles should deserve to have equally nice ride, though compared to the rest of the segment, it's still a little bit on this more stiffer side of it. So if you want a little bit more of a just cushy, not as dynamic driving experience, you're going to want to look elsewhere. But for me, Mazda is my go-to for all of those wonderful things, and I love every second about it. Now over here on the rear of the Mazda CX-70 plug-in hybrid, again, before we even get into the design stuff here, I still am annoyed that Mazda is not making these taillights fully accessible on the plug-in hybrid models. I guess it's their main way to differentiate it between the inline six, but it just looks like they're cheaping out, and this vehicle is $60,000 nearly. This should be fully illuminated and not exclusive to the inline six models. Nonetheless, I personally am still a huge fan of the design of the CX-70 and 90. I know some people get a little bit thrown off from kind of like this hunchback style rear end, but the whole point of doing this was to increase all of that cargo space back here. And I think stylistically in person, it looks really cool and unique on the road, especially the nice huge C-pillar here and dynamic shape of the body of Mazda's Kodo design language here. And no, I'm not being paid to say this. I'm just personally obsessed with Mazda. Of course, styling is subjective to everyone, and I'm not forcing anyone to like this, but I really like it. Now, one thing I would like to see is a little bit larger of a rear window wiper back here. It kind of creates a really small space to look out of when you have a lot of rain going on. Otherwise, perfectly fine, I think, nonetheless. Now, one of the big things on the CX-70 that's different on the 90 is this lower bumper area over here. So you have this kind of faux style trim like we saw on the front lower bumper area. Again, really just to differentiate it stylistically a little bit from the CX-90, but again, nothing too different overall. We do have a nice big power tailgate though, which is a wonderful feature. So popping it opens quite quick. And this is the rear space of the CX-70 here, and one of the most interesting things about this vehicle. So let's have a little conversation about that. So guys, as you know, and I've mentioned already in this video, the CX-70 is essentially a CX-90 without the third row option whatsoever. Quite literally, actually. And so that means back here, you may think, oh, I'm gonna have so much more cargo space because I don't have that third row. Well, actually, with the third row down on the CX-90, and I guess in this vehicle as well without the third row, you're still getting a pretty decent amount of space behind said third row, or said second row actually. So it's around 40 cubic feet of total space. Fold that second row down on both vehicles, including the third row on the CX-90, you're gonna get around 75 cubic feet of space. The only difference, obviously, is if you had that third row up on the CX-90, you're gonna have less cargo space, so less than that 40 cubic feet. But without it here at all, Mazda's done some interesting things to kind of compensate. So opening up this floor area over here to the massive trunk that you're just getting as standard, you have a nice fixed place here for your plug if you're gonna get the plug-in hybrid model, as well as some tire repair kits and stuff over here. Open this even further though, and you have a whole bunch of interesting storage solutions built into the floor of the CX-70's trunk. And they've tried to kind of make a lot of interesting use of this space on their website with an endless amount of different accessories to kind of build out this rear cargo space to how you want it, from different storage boxes to different nets, cargo covers, and all of that different stuff. This one actually does not have a cargo cover, which is an interesting oversight, I think. I think they should have included that, but it's an interesting way they've tried to make use of this space. Now, coming into the rear seats of the CX-70, this is one of the areas where I really like, especially for people who want to get in and out of these seats super easily. The doors of both the CX-70 and 90 pretty much open to almost a full 90-degree angle, which makes getting in and out of this vehicle so easy. You also can see just how big this opening is for people to get in and out of. It's pretty impressive here. And just like on the front seats, we have a really nice treatment going on the door panels here. This really nice red, spicy red leather here. Same thing with this contrasting stitching and almost like piping going around this really nicely well cushioned armrest over here. Thankfully, Mazda has also included these manual sunshades as well, which is a really nice touch for this absolutely huge window, which does come with privacy glass, and a huge amount of space over here for cup holders as well. So lots of storage in the rear seats of the CX-70, just like we saw in the CX-90. Now, of course, we don't really need to open these seats further back because there is no third row to get into, but they do offer a reclining function now for this second row seats, which I guess is a little bit more of a highlighted importance than having to get into a such third row, which does not exist on the CX-70. Hopping inside, closing up the door, we can see we have just a huge amount of rear leg room here. So if you really are valuing this room space back here for second row passengers, both the CX-70 and 90 are really going to do a great job for you. We have some storage cubbies here on both of the rear seats for both the front and driver and passenger. Nice kind of dark chrome style finish around these rear air vents, and we have our own climate control systems here, as well as rear heat seating and 2 USB-C ports. Now, there may be a hump back here, but there's just so much space in this vehicle. It's really not even an issue. So you really could sit 3 people back here easily. I like how this belt kind of folds into the seat as well. We also open this area up over here for 2 cup holders as well. We just have some drinks in here, so apologies for the moisture, but that is a nice touch as well. And of course, lots of space back here. You can recline the seats. You can see the different adjustments as well. They go pretty far back. And with this panoramic roof shade open, it is really nice in here. Lots of headroom, lots of space. So really no complaints there. But again, this is essentially a large vehicle, not necessarily a true mid-size vehicle. So we may not have that third row, but you're getting all of the space that you would get in a typical 3-row sized vehicle. So that's pretty much why it has so much space back here. We even have adjustment underneath the seat, so I could actually pull this entire bench forward and back, depending if I wanted to have even more space in my rear cargo area over here. And just to see how far this adjustment goes for the reclining, pulling it back here, I can really go so far back. You can see how far back the seat can lean up, and as well as how far forward it can go, to the point where you're going to be folding the seat flat forward for that full 75 cubic feet of cargo space we have in the CX-70. So I really like these back seats. You kind of have this nice commanding view, even almost over the driver, and I never will feel cramped in here. We have nice LED accent lighting if you do need so as well. Some grab handles if your driver is enjoying that Mazda driving dynamics a little bit too much, but again, really no complaints back here, but maybe just a little bit more thigh support, if anything. Okay guys, before going inside of the Mazda CX-70 here, we have our typical Mazda key fob. Nothing has really changed for the CX-70. Same, all the buttons on the side over here, but thankfully we have full keyless access, and it will even lock if you just walk away from the vehicle as well. So we'll just walk up to the door handles here. Of course, capacitive touch under here to unlock and lock it. So we'll see our mirrors unfold as well. Really nice touch there. Opening up this door, and wow, check out this interior on the CX-70. This is one of the areas where Mazda really differentiated this vehicle versus the CX-90, is giving it unique interior trims, materials, color options, and all this stuff. And on this Premium Plus trim, this is where this vehicle truly can rival some like luxury brands, especially some German and European luxury brands as well, just in terms of quality, features, design elements, and the overall fit, finish, and feel of everything is really, really unique here. Nothing in the Japanese brands are like this, really. On the door panels here, I love this kind of complicated trim here. It looks very BMW-esque, but in a very good way as well, I think. Love this kind of gunmetal style trim as well over here, again, to differentiate it from the CX-90. We have our Bose speaker system here, around 12 speakers on this vehicle. It's a pretty good speaker. And I like this red, almost like a spicy red trim here we have on this interior of the CX-70 Premium Plus plug-in hybrid. And it's brought into the lower area trim over here. So we have contrasting red stitching on this really, really soft armrest over here for our door panels. Nice big storage over here for some cups as well. We have unique CX-70 branded carpets, and just check out these seats here on the CX-70. Again, that nice spicy red leather material here with contrast stitching, a nice unique black leather line throughout it as well, and an absolutely massive panoramic glass roof which has this power shade in it as well. So let's hop inside and see what it's like inside the CX-70. Closing up the doors, nice solid funk here inside the CX-70, and just check out this interior. Wow. If I cover this badge up and you just had a look in here, honestly, you will think this might be an Audi or something. It's really that nice in here. Starting up, we have our engine stop start button right over here with a nice red matching color accent here. And it comes to life with some really cool animations here, though Mazda's chime is a little bit excessive, if I may say. Okay guys, so what are we looking at on the interior of the CX-70 here? So as you can see, this camera has popped up. That is an option here, but if you see my CX-90 videos, pretty much it's all the same in here, though again, that trim and all those pieces that we've just mentioned are a little bit different. So we have this really nice red accented stitching around this leather wrapped steering wheel as well. Really interesting kind of nice gold style, bronze gold accents on our air vents here, and I just love how the design just blends right into this dash. Really, really premium touches here. And check out this contrasting piping and stitching on the dash up here. So we have a black piping with red contrast stitching over this red dash design, and this trim that we saw over on the door panels also finds its way on the center console area over here. It looks very, very premium and nice. And I like how Mazda has thought about drivers' knees as well. And they have a nice stitched padded leather piece over here. So when you're resting your leg over here, it's not hitting any hard plastic or anything. So that's a really nice touch. And that also finds its way over to this center console area over here. Nicely well padded, huge pieces to this center console. And it also has that nice contrasting stitching. Opens in a fan style as well. And it sounds very premium closing it as well, just like in a CX-90. And I would have to say storage could be a little bit better in here. It's not super deep, but we do have 2 USB-C ports in there if you do need to plug in some devices to charge or connect to the infotainment system. We have a cup holder right over here, well, 2 cup holders as well. They could be a little bit bigger, but I've really not experienced any issues, which is nice. Wireless charging mat over here honestly does not work very well. You can actually deactivate it from the infotainment system. It has never charged my phone. I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I don't know if it just doesn't fit, but it hasn't worked once, so I just turned it off completely. But we do still have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, which is a nice touch here. Mazda's unique new shifter here we have on the CX-90 and 70 kind of works very simply, actually just drive, neutral, reverse, and park just like that. We also have Mazda's drive selector over here, which does illuminate at night, which is quite nice. We have a charge button here, so we can use the engine to charge this plug-in hybrid battery if you do want to. And it will give you options for a whole bunch of different charge targets as well. So you can have it hold it at like a certain level, or you can have it charged at different levels or to activate at certain levels as well, which is a really cool touch. So I like that you have the ability to change that. Not a lot of plug-in hybrids do allow that option, which is pretty cool. You kind of hear that the engine has turned on now because we fiddled with that button and it turned off. We also have hill descent control and a pretty fantastic 360-degree view camera system. So pressing this button here is going to open up some really high definition cameras here on the CX-70. So we have this front view here. We also have a wider front view that's going to kind of encapsulate some front tire views as well. We can see our front side views as well, and we can go to this standard view section, and this is going to open up this huge panoramic front view here, as well as a 360 view around the vehicle. And of course, you can stretch it out just to be like that. And of course, popping in reverse is going to reveal our full reversing cameras as well. So you can change those views too, which is a really nice touch. So lots of options here in terms of our camera systems, and I like how clear they are as well on this massive screen over here Mazda has put on the CX-70 and 90. Now coming over to our driver center over here, we have two display sections. So we have our active driving display, which is our heads-up display up there. Very clear and quite huge, actually. You kind of see how big the outline is reflecting in the glass. And we have our very crystal clear digital display up here. I love how rich the contrast Mazda makes their digital clusters here, and it's not too much of an information overload, which I quite like. They separate a lot of their screens very well, so you're not going to be digging through menus over here like pretty much every other Japanese brand makes you do. They've separated that and put it in the infotainment system like it should be. So over here, you're really focused on your charge and power status, your miles per hour, as well as your fuels for both your battery and your actual gas tank here. And we have a small multifunction display we can kind of cycle through here, so we can see our efficiency. We have our temperatures for both our battery as well as our engine, our safety system status, compass, and some other fun information there. So nothing too overwhelming, which I quite like. But once you press one of your safety system style screens, so if we want to turn on adaptive cruise control, we're going to get this cool animation that's going to bring us to that style of display here. We can still change that multifunction side panel over here, but this is really going to be a nice dynamic screen when you're using your radar cruise control and steering and lane change assist here. And that's also going to be completely duplicated here in our heads-up display, which looks really fantastic out on the road. And we have some cool animations going through our drive mode. So this is normal mode. We also have a pure EV mode here. We have off-road mode, as well as a sport mode, which has a really cool red graphic that's going to take advantage of the full power of the system. It will kick the engine on as well. And it also plays really well with all of these different displays through them. So that's a really nice touch in terms of design there as well. Steering wheel itself, I think, is the perfect diameter still. I love Mazda's steering wheel designs. Really great to feel in the hand, though I will still complain, and every Mazda has this issue, is that only these side pieces right here heat when you turn on your heated steering wheel, not the top pieces. I don't know why they still do that. It'd be nice to have the full steering wheel heated, and it could get a little bit hotter. We do have paddle shifters over here as well, automatic headlights as well as automatic wipers as well. Really nice touch, and all of their buttons still have this really nice premium feel to them. Mazda spent literally millions of dollars designing the buttons to have this really premium feel to them, and I think it still is paying off today. We have memory seats, as well as a memory adjustment for our rear trunk we can fiddle with. We can turn our parking sensors off, traction control, and open our fuel tank from here, as it is pressurized because of this plug-in hybrid system to keep the gas fresher for longer. Just if you're not going to be using battery most of the time, you want to make sure that gas in that tank doesn't go bad if you're not going to be using it that much. Coming over to our center console area over here, thankfully, we do have a separate area for our climate control system that Mazda still does here. Popping this on, we have heated and ventilated seats for both the front driver and passenger, full automatic climate control adjustment as well, and we can also control the rear climate controls from here as well. So I really like that. Really nice buttons over here to change our temperatures, which is a nice touch. And of course, we have our Mazda infotainment system, which I still am a huge fan of. It's just so simple, well laid out. We have some nice driving information as well for our energy monitoring, so we can see what's happening with the battery
battery charge status, as well as the engine, what's recharging who. We can also see our full high voltage battery monitor on here, giving us some more details on our battery system specifically, which is a nice touch, and just general vehicle maintenance and other status on here. Very BMW iDrive in a sense, but almost simplified in a way that I think is easy really for everyone to use. Same things with settings. I think Mazda does a great job at kind of separating stuff in their settings with some really cool graphics as well from our driver assistance systems. So we can see we get a graphic for pretty much every single system in the driver assistance system, even corresponding to which particular buttons you might want to see. So this is a really great way to kind of visualize what's happening in your vehicle, because I don't think every vehicle does a great job at kind of telling you what's happening with all these different safety systems. And this vehicle really does have so many different safety systems, from front cross traffic alert, rear cross traffic alert, lane departure systems, blind spot monitoring, vehicle exit warning. You're going to be safe in the CX-70s. That's one thing for sure, even with all of your different collision avoidance systems as well. And throwing in this fully radar adaptive cruise control system on the highway. It's really, I think, the best versions of Mazda safety systems, or what they call iActive safety sense, that I've seen in any Mazda today. You even have all these different settings for your camera just alone. So you could spend a long time kind of customizing all this stuff to your own liking, but it is pretty much endless in these setting systems over here, which is really, really cool. You can even adjust some things like the blinker volume as well. If it's a little bit too loud blinking for you, you can even adjust that as well, which is a nice touch. And of course, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you kind of just pop it open like that. And when it's in those systems, you can use this as a touchscreen even while driving now. It's just Mazda's own screens. You have to use their scroll wheel here, which I have no issue with. You have some nice hotkeys here for your navigation, going back, music, as well as home. You can press this, hold it back and forth to switch through Apple CarPlay and whatever your screen you are in your Mazda system, which is a nice touch. We have a favorite button here and a physical volume knob here that also has forward and reversing for our tracks, which is a nice touch. And it all feels and sounds very, very nice. Don't forget the auto brake hold, as well as our electronic parking brake over here as well. And seat comfort wise, I think these seats are very, very nice. Some people say they are a little bit too stiff for them, but I really don't have too much issues. The only thing I would say is I would like a little bit more thigh support. Otherwise, I have really no problems there. We have a nice big glove box over here as well, which opens up to a nice felt lined inside. Nice touch there. And that's pretty much it with the main pieces of the CX-70's interior. And it's a really unique, bold design, I think, for this interior space here, especially if you want to differentiate a little bit more than a CX-90. Nice frameless mirror over here. And of course, we have interior LED lighting and this power sunshade, which reveals this massive panoramic glass roof, which really opens up the cabin if you want it to be a little bit more sunny and have some more light in here. Otherwise, you can close it up pretty easily, and this piece does open, of course, for you. I almost forgot our sunglasses holder up here. Anyways, guys, let's go take the CX-70 now on a drive and see how it handles out on the road. And if you do floor it, pushing the kick pedal down, it will activate that full boost system there. So it'll kind of kick it back into normal mode actually. But if you want to floor it in EV mode, just don't push all the way down and you'll kind of lock it in EV mode. You still have a pretty nice amount of power here actually in pure EV mode, which actually quite is nice, especially for going around town. It's a nice, smooth, seamless experience, and you will actually feel it shifting through the 8 gears because it is still having to go through that as it's in front of this gearbox here. We also have some pretty nice regenerative capabilities here on the CX-70 plug-in hybrid. So I love this energy flow monitor screen that's kind of telling you what's happening. You can change your regen from low to high as well. Not many plug-in hybrids models actually really do that, which is also a nice touch. And our battery pack is almost fully charged here. It's around 90-ish%, which we can actually see here on our high voltage battery monitor. So it's going to show us we have 77% state of charge with around 23 miles, and our total combined range of around 190 miles when you're looking at this fuel tank. We have around half a tank right now, and our battery pack. Now popping into sport mode, we're getting full power here, and it uses the electric motor now as almost a boost function. So going on it, see it says boost here, and this thing is quick. We have 323 horsepower and over 360 pound-feet of torque combined, and honestly, for a vehicle that's over 5,100 pounds, it handles and drives pretty impressively. Mazda's steering is really sharp and very heavily weighted. If you're not a fan of that, Unfortunately, you can't really change the steering feel here, but it's really, really impressive for the dynamics of this vehicle, especially with how it's essentially a front mid-engine car, and all of that battery weight and all that stuff is really mounted quite low down. So it feels heavy, but it's managed well. You can see it's saying boost there because we have our EV boost mode on. And I will say, in both this and the CX-90, there's this weird kind of sound going into through second gear. I think Mazda almost engineered this in here to kind of give you a little more emotion, but it's a little bit unsettling in some cases, I will say. This is our main view. We can also turn on our driver assistance view that we can see right here. So we have a few different angles you can kind of get this digital cluster at, but typically this is going to be the one you're going to want to have it in at all times. With the 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated, no turbocharging stuff going on here. And it goes through those gears pretty nicely if you do want to shift it yourself. And Mazda has their kinematic posture control, which uses sort of like a torque vectoring by braking to kind of help you adjust that power, especially if you're on it around a corner. Really helps to modulate power well and to kind of steer you into that corner. Like I said, this thing is pretty quick for such a large SUV, and it's, again, handles itself really, really well. But we all know that about this vehicles now. Both this and the CX-90 kind of stand out on that point. But how is this really different than a CX-90? Well, it's not that much different. It's really losing around 50-ish pounds versus the CX-90 as it's kind of getting rid of that third row here. And on the highway, performance between this and the CX-90 plug-in hybrid are pretty much identical. You're going to see 60 miles an hour at around 5.5 to 5.9 seconds, which is respectable for a vehicle of this size. It's essentially a full-size vehicle kind of playing as a mid-sized vehicle. And out here on the highway, it still handles itself quite well. Going over bumps, there's a little bit of some unsteadiness in some cases, but most of the time it's very, very smooth going across the road here. And thankfully we have the Premium Plus model here, and Mazda has actually increased their packaging over these past year and a half or 2 years now since the CX-90's been out, and it's great to see that they've made these changes here on the CX-70, as we are getting so many safety systems standard now. And this has Mazda's full safety system suite here. And now we already get to test our adaptive cruise control system here. And of course, as all adaptive cruise control systems, you really just set it and it now gets going for you already. So this one has steering assistance. So it's not one of those systems where you can take your hands off the wheel and let it drive as it's monitoring your face, but you can confidently, I would say, kind of have to grab something, or if you have a kid in the back seat, deal with whatever they're kind of going on about quickly without feeling unsafe, and it will start beeping at you if you have your hands off the wheel for too long. But generally, I think it works quite well out here on the highway. Set your speed and kind of just let it do its thing. It will alert you if it's deactivating or if you need to put your hand on the wheel through vibrations as well as what's happening around you on the highway. And I really like these nice big graphics on the heads-up display over here, showing you pretty much what we're seeing over here. So they want you to keep your eyes focused on the road. That same thing goes with their infotainment system over here. So going into Apple CarPlay, for example, it's really nice in your line of sight. Now you can touch it as well if you want to use it as a touchscreen, or you can use Mazda's control wheel over here, which is quite nice, and you have quick access to go to and from your Mazda infotainment system and to Apple CarPlay. So whatever screen you stay on this system, hold that home button down, and it will take you right back into whatever screen you're on in Apple CarPlay, which is a really cool little feature there as well. Otherwise, guys, I'm pretty impressed with this CX-70, just as I was with the CX-90. Is it for everyone? No, but I quite like it, and I would definitely recommend one if you're looking for a unique vehicle in this mid-size segment that has more space than the rest of all of its competitors. And of course, if you need that third row, go straight to the CX-90, which can honestly be cheaper in some cases than this CX-70 itself. Nonetheless, guys, thank you guys for joining me on this video, and as always, stay tuned for more coming in Allcarnews. Cheers.